Hello, welcome to lesson 16B. So we are skipping ahead to this lesson because it does have to do with what we were doing before. Before we were taking a graph and making the equation. Today we're going to take the equation and make the graph. So I'm going to zoom into the top objective here because today you're going to see two different types. So you're going to see slope-intercept form and standard form. So slope-intercept form is what we're used to. Y equals mx plus b. So that's where the y is by itself. So by itself. That's when the y is by itself. That's slope-intercept form. Standard form is when x and y are on the same side together. So it looks like ax plus something in front of y equals a constant. So it has a coefficient in front of the x, a coefficient in front of the y equals some constant. So we call it ax plus by equals c. Just standing in for some whole number integers. All right, so today we're going to be graphing those, graphing the equations that were already written for us. So we're going to see some that are y equals mx plus b and some that are standard form. So if it's y equals mx plus b, remember to graph that, we're going to start at b and then use the slope. Start at 0b, start at 0b, then we're going to use the slope, the change in y and the change in x. And remember, that's the m right there in front of x. So if it's slope-intercept form, it's nice and easy. Start at b, then change y and change the x. If it's standard form, there's two different routes to take. So if it's standard form, we could either find the intercepts. And so we are kind of used to that. We have been used to finding the b, the y-intercept. So that's when the x is 0. So that would be using those. Or we could find the x-intercept. So I'll show you how to do that in just a couple problems here, but that means basically we're going to set the y to 0. So we can find what are called either the zeros or the intercepts, or we can just solve for y. So circle the y, draw the line, circle the y, move everything away from it. So that's the new part today. Everything else is really going to be review. Let's look at slope-intercept form first because that's what we're used to. So let's look at this very first graph. So underneath this, we have y equals negative 2x plus 6. Remember, that means we're going to start at 0, 6, because that's the b, that's the last number that's right there. So we start at 0, 6, right there. And then we go, well, let's look at the slope. The slope is negative, so then we're going to go down from there. It's going down because it's negative, and that would be 2 over 1. So remember, the change in y there is going to be 2 over 1. So we're going to go down 2 over 1. And so if we had to go down 2 from here, we start at negative 6 and go down 2, we would need a point down here, down 2 over 1. But we want this line going down. So it's wanting to do this. So if I need to get some more points, if I don't have enough to keep going down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, I could end up going the opposite direction. So instead of down 2 over 1, we could go up to left 1. And that would still get our line overall. I'm just going 2 over 1, 2 over 1, vertical change of 2 over 1. And that would get our overall line going downhill, okay? Because remember, a negative slope means it's decreasing. So for every x, this is going to decrease 2 on the y's. And so we can check that line, and yes, it does decrease. So that's how we do this. All right, so we start at the b, and then we use the m. Let's try that again. On y equals negative 3/2 x plus 1, we're going to start at 0, 1, start on the y-axis up here at 1, and then this is another negative slope. Remember, slope dude, nice, negative. It's going to go downhill. So it's going to go down, according to the slope, 3 over 2. So this time we're going to go down 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2. Let's do that again, down 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2. If I needed to go the opposite directions, I could go up 1, 2, 3 and left 2. That would still end up on the same line with a line going downhill. So make sure if it's a negative slope, my line is going downhill. All right, now let's try y equals negative x plus 5. So this one starts at 0, 5. Up here, and then it has a negative slope, so this is going to go down, and it's 1 over 1. Remember, if we can't see it, it's a 1. So it's a 1 over 1. So I'm going to go from there, I'm going to go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, so that this line goes downhill or up and right, or up and left. All right, there we go. Because we want all the points on this to be going down from left to right. All right, let's look for some more slope-intercept form because that's what we're most used to, starting at the b and then using the m, the number in front of x, the coefficient. If we go down here, notice these don't look the same. Our y's are not by themselves, so we'll deal with that in a minute. Let's look for the ones that have y's by themselves. So none of those do. Let's flip it over. None of these do. These are all standard form, and that's because we're going to be learning that today. But if we go down here, oh, there's one. Here's one where y is by itself. So let's do our start at 0, 3. Start at 0, 3. So when x is 0, y would be 3. Then go down. So all of these had negative slopes. Then go down 1 over 2. Down 1 over 2. So we're going to go down 1 over 2. Down 1 over 2. Down 1 over 2. Or we could go up and left 2, up and left 2, up and left 2. All right, just as long as we have our change in y and change in x. Change in y is a 1, change in x is a 2, and we want this line going downhill because it is a negative. So that's a decreasing function. All right, so those we're used to. We've done those before, but let's go and look at those other ones, the standard form ones. So remember I said there's 2 routes. So in this first section, it says graph equations in standard form and identify the slope using x and y intercepts. So x and y intercepts, it's basically when x is 0, that one's a y-intercept. If y is 0, that number would be the x-intercept. It's where it's going to cross the x-axis. So in other words, it's our zeros. So let's look at 4x minus 2y equals 12. So we're going to make a little table of values here. And we're going to have a spot where x is 0 and a spot for where y is 0. And that's going to give us 2 points. And as long as we have 2 points, we can graph. So this becomes really easy. If we plug in 0 for x, watch what happens. 0 times anything is going to be 0. And so that just goes away. And I have negative 2y equals 12. Well, now it's just a one-step equation. Dividing both sides by negative 2, we get that y equals negative 6. So we already found our y-intercept. It's going to cross the y-axis down here at negative 6. Now let's see if we can find the x-intercept. Well, we could plug in 0 for y. So if I do that, I end up getting, let's go down here, 4x minus 2 times 0, because I'm just taking out the y and replacing it with a 0, equals 12. 0 times anything is 0, and so that completely goes away. I just have 4x equals 12, dividing both sides by 4. I find that x is 3. So that's my x-intercept. So we just plug in 0 for the other letter, and that gives us the intercept point. So it's going to cross at 3, 0, which is right there. So now I have my x and y intercept. I know where it starts, and I know where it's going to go, so I can draw my line. So my line is going to go like that. Ta-da! And so we could find the slope now. Let's see, it goes up 6, right 3. So that tells me it was going up 2, right 1, up 2, right 1, and it does look like it does that. Okay, but we can find the intercept points. So in order to find the y-intercept, basically what happens is you can cover up the x and solve. To find the x-intercept, we can cover up the y and solve. So let's try that over here. All right, so let's make our little table of values. We know we're going to try to find the zeros. So I'm going to have a spot for x is 0 and a spot for where y is 0. If I'm plugging in 0 for x, that one's going to go away. And so I would have 6y equals 24. Divide by 6, and that tells me y is 4. So y is 4, 0, 4. So there's 1 point. Now let's plug in 0 for y. If I plug in 0 for y, the equation says negative 8x. Negative 8x equals 24. If I divide both sides by negative 8, I get negative 3. All right, so that means my x-intercept is at negative 3, 0. My y-intercept is at 0, 4. So now I have 2 points. I can connect them and draw my line. Let's line that up. There we go. Okay, and it's very nice for equations like this that work out nicely. Let's see. Here's one more that's going to work out nicely. So I'll leave a spot for my x and y. I'll leave a spot for x is 0, leave a spot for y is 0. Okay, if I plug in x as 0, cover that up, and it says 6y equals 36. 6y equals 36, divide by 6, and we get y equals 6. So the y-intercept is up here at 0, 6. Now for the x-intercept. If I cover up the y, basically plugging in 0 for y, I get negative 9x equals 36. Negative 9x equals 36. Dividing by negative 9 tells me x would equal negative 4. All right, so then we have negative 4, 0 is another point on this line. Now that I have 2 points that are on the line, I can connect those points, and it creates the line for me. There it is. All right, so remember, we're able to do this. We're able to find the intercepts by plugging in 0 for the other letter and solving. So here, remember, we plug in 0 for x to find the y, but 0 times anything is 0. That's why it goes away. All right, let's flip this over. And what if it doesn't work out nicely? So let's look at this one. If I were to plug in 0 for y on this one, I would end up with 3x equals 10. And 10 divided by 3 is not pretty. It's a fraction. It's still a number, but it's just not pretty. It's not easy to solve. So let's go ahead and just get y by itself this time. So I'm going to draw my line, circle my variable. The variable I want isolated is the y. So farthest from the 5y, farthest from the y is the 3x. So I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. That'll move it over, so I have 5y equals negative 3x plus 10. Remember, we can't combine those because this one has an x and that one doesn't. And then my last step would be divide everything by 5. We have a fractional slope, but that's okay because it's change in y over change in x. So y would equal negative 3/5 x plus 10 divided by 5 is 2. Now notice when I divided by 5, I divided everything by 5. Everything. So make sure that you do that. So now that it's in slope-intercept form, I can see we start at 2. So I'm going to start at 2, then go down 3, right 5. Down 1, 2, 3, over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that this line goes downhill. And if it's going downhill, instead of going down 3, right 5, I could go up 3, left 5. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and still end up with another point on this graph. Okay, so if it doesn't work out nicely to find the zeros, then you can always just isolate the y and start at the y-intercept and use the slope like we did before. Let's try this one. Now again, I can see this one wouldn't work out nicely for the zeros. None of these up here will, because if I covered that up, I'd be dividing 8 by 3, and that's just not pretty. So let's isolate the y. Draw the line, circle the y. The y is what we want to stay. So I'm going to move this. In order to move it, we do the opposite. So we'll add 3x to both sides. I'm left with negative 4y equals 3x plus 8. Divide everything by negative 4. And I get y equals negative 3/4 x minus 2, because 8 divided by negative 4 is negative 2. So that tells me we're going to start at negative 2 and then go down 1, 2, 3, right 1, 2, 3, 4. Or the opposite of that, instead of down 3, right 4, we could go up 3, 1, 2, 3, left 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Okay, so as soon as you get 2 or 3 points on there, I'd say you're safe to go ahead and graph. On the computer, it'll be a little bit easier because you only have to put 2 points on there. On paper, it's best to do 3. All right, so that's what we do if we cannot solve easily for the zeros. Like here again, I'm going to do this one quickly. Let's see if you can keep up. I'm going to get the y by itself. I'm going to add 2x to both sides. That leaves me with 3y equals 2x plus 9. Divide everything by 3, and we end up with y equals 2/3 x plus 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So this one's going to start at 0, 3, and then go up, because it's positive, up to right 3. 1, 2, 3. Up to right 3, 1, 2, 3, or down to left 3. Okay, there we go. Okay, and this line goes up because it's positive. Remember what Slope Dude would say, puff, puff, positive. There it goes. All right, and we're not going to be doing the other examples at the bottom, but if you need some more help, come see me at the conference table and I'll go through them with you. Don't forget about the exit ticket, and watch this again if you need to. Have a great day.